Fortnite relies pretty heavily on ping, and as you can see in today's video, if you look up at my ping, I am playing at around 100 ping. Now I play in NA East, but I'm actually queued in on an EU creative server, so I get a little bit higher latency. But I wanted to test out the ping and show you guys some tips and talk about different ways on how to play well even when you're suffering from high ping. Now, before I started recording for today's video, I was testing out some higher pings, and I was actually getting 150 to 220 ping when I was downloading a game. Now, I found that it was really hard to do just about everything. You had to go at pretty much minimum speed that you possibly could just to make sure you weren't phasing through everything. Now, for me, I would have to say about 100 to about 130 to 40, maybe at the most, is about where I would cap myself in terms of how high of a ping I would play on. Because after you get that point, it's going to be basically impossible. And when I was trying to do double floor wall ramp, I was having to walk super slowly just because nothing was placing fast enough. When you're playing on a high ping, doing crazy builds that you're used to on low ping are going to take a lot longer to place, and it's going to be really hard. So going for these crazy build battles and such is going to be a lot more difficult than you might think. But one thing when I was testing everything out that I found to be pretty surprising was the fact that edits are very smooth, and since they added the client side, it's really easy to just edit. And it's not as much as the latency as I thought it would be. So instead of going for those big build battles, edit fights really aren't that bad. Now, one thing that you definitely have to be careful about is if somebody tries to take your wall, get out of your box, because there's no way you're going to be able to hold a wall with 100 plus ping. Even a difference of 10 to 15 ping is going to make you lose the wall. So imagine being 60 ping more than somebody. There's no way in heck you're going to be able to keep that wall. So making sure you're just editing out, make sure you re-edit this back, rebuild your 1x1, and get ready for another shot. One thing that you can do is probably just trap some walls on your way back just to make sure they're not going to be following you this way. That way you don't have to worry about two walls, as they're probably only going to be at this one wall here. One thing I gotta say when I was testing everything out is that having good muscle memory definitely will help you out a lot. For example, I've done 90s a million times, and when I got on to do them on this ping, I didn't feel like it was too hard. Now, it feels like some of my walls and stuff aren't placing, but they end up placing eventually. Now, after you do a couple, you'll feel that sometimes it's like you're glitching underneath. I'm not sure if I can recreate it again, but sometimes it felt like I was lagging underneath, and then I'd pop right back up. But if you just keep going with your 90s, you're going to just trust yourself that you're going to end up nailing it. And that's one of the biggest things I can say. Now, of course, you're going to have to slow yourself down a little bit. Doing things like the Tfue Classic where you shoot and place is going to be a lot harder because you don't get that instant protection from the floor. And as well, if you're getting sprayed out, a lot of times I like to go for a shotgun shot when the wall gets broken and then immediately replace it. But there's that latency of when the build will go down. In comparison, as you can see, I'm going to jump out in the open and shoot. It's going to take a second for me to place that floor. Now that second that I'm floating in the air, my opponent's going to be on low ground and they're going to be easily able to shoot me out. As well, your builds are going to place down a lot slower, so bullets are going to sneak through a lot more often. So making sure you're dodging and weaving as much as possible to make sure you take the minimal amount of damage is important. Most importantly, knowing your limits with ping is very important. I know if I'm in arena mode or a scrim type game with 100 ping, I'm definitely going to play a lot slower and not really be pushing too many people, just because if you do, you're going to be at a pretty big disadvantage, especially in those late game scenarios where you have the latency from being on high ping, as well as having the latency from being in end game. You're going to be at quite a disadvantage, so making sure that you're protecting yourself over everything is going to be important. You might not be able to get many kills because, as you can see here, placing down builds and stuff is going to take a lot longer than you'd think, and it's a lot of getting used to and making sure that you can play on high ping. That is going to wrap up today's video. I know a couple of you were asking because I'm sure a lot of you struggle with ping. I know my internet can be pretty trash sometimes and it spikes way up there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you have anything else you guys want to leave down about high ping in the comments, let me know. I'm down to try out some more stuff. And other than that, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. And I'll see you guys all in the next one.